The challenge, though, is as these AI tools, AI-assisted development tools, and no-code tools develop to the point where one single individual can compete with them, you have this situation where enterprise development teams, they're not going to cannibalize themselves, right? They're going to hang on as long as they possibly can to their job because of the same resistance to change that the painting companies have that you work with.
Welcome back to another episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. My name is Chris Kiefer, and today I am joined by Shawn Beekman, who is the founder of Next Consulting. Shawn, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So tell us about Next Consulting.
Yeah, so we specialize in sales and operations automations. So we kind of engage in two-part implementations. Sales automations have been around for a long time, and they've seen many iterations since 2016. But now, with no-code development tools, we're able to automate like significant amount of what used to be manual labor on the operation side. So our focus is mostly on the operation side of workflow automations now.
That's awesome. And I've talked to several people. It's obviously we do similar things in the painting world. A best explanation I've ever heard of this is that the idea of automating is not new. It's been around forever. People have, we have been automating things since the beginning of computers, and you could argue potentially even before that. But when people hear AI, what is happening at the masses is that they are now starting to believe and understand that things can't, like AI can like automate my business, when in reality you could have automated these processes before. It just would have taken you a lot more time, probably some developers, intensive coding, building custom software. And all that's changed is it's actually AI and no code tools. And then you put those two together. But no code tools lowered that barrier down. And then AI just accelerated the whole thing because now, I mean, we do this all day long. And that's, you have like a particular set of data that's coming in, and you know that there's some simple code that you could write, or you need to build out a few steps in your automation tool that you're using. And now most of those tools, or even like a co-pilot assistant, can spit out JavaScript that, maybe would have taken an experienced developer 10 minutes or so to write. And as someone that doesn't understand JavaScript, I can just, like, in common language, say, I want to, like, the most recent thing we have is, I just did this yesterday for somebody. They have deal objects in their CRM, contact objects in their CRM, companies, and there's data like a phone number in the deal and the contact and the company. Well, which phone number do we take? Same thing for email. So you've got 3 phones, 3 emails, 3 street addresses, 3 cities. And so I just spit out this, like, I want to select a single, like, name, phone, email, address, and all these fields, and I want the priority to go deal first, then contact, then company, right? So kind of, I'm getting into the weeds here, but the point is that I was able to say that, and this beautiful JavaScript thing was created in a matter of seconds that spit out the correct answer every time. And it's like that's an example of something took, like, again, so I wouldn't have been able to do that before. I would have had to make some really complex no code blocks or whatever. And now I was able to make this in about a minute, and it would have taken someone that knew what they were doing and had years of experience of JavaScript maybe 30 minutes to an hour to do the same thing. And so that like compression of time is really what I am so obsessed with AI that I feel like people have no idea. Like, you cannot comprehend how much faster things are going and how rapidly stuff is changing right now.
Yeah, that's a really good description, by the way. And I think if you even took a 30,000-foot overview and kind of chopped up the two segments. So for, like, you made a good point, which is these automations have been around for a very long time. They've just been on the enterprise side, which means 20 team developers that are working for Cisco or Intel or whatever. These guys, but there's a big disconnect between the the cost to do that and what you could do for like the sub $10 million a year category, like small cap companies. And so now you have individual owners that don't need to hire developers that have access to all of those tools and can do enterprise level automations in 20 minutes.
Yeah. And the thing is that it keeps getting more like simpler. He's just in the last year, the number of stuff, because we've been doing this for, I mean, I've been working on automating painting businesses for the last 5 years, ever since I joined a painting company. But for the last 2 years independently, I've been working on automating painting businesses. And in the last 3 months, the features and stuff that these like major companies like Zapier make, Ply, these tools are becoming so easy to use, um, that it's like it's actually mind-boggling. And I just realized a simpler way to say this is the idea of doing more, producing more, like growing faster, building things quicker, with less resources, less money, less labor, less time. Just, I want to do more with less. That has been a thing for humans since the beginning of time. And it's like, I want to, I'm planted a garden, right? So I want more food instead of having to go like hunt for all my food. And then it's like this like hoe is really slow. Maybe I should get a horse and make a thing that the horse pulls. And it's just like all of that is the same exact thing that's happening now. But now people, I think, at the masses are like, oh, AI is making this possible. And it is, but it's been possible forever. AI is just electrification. It's an efficiency gain by multiples that it's hard to comprehend. And it's accelerating everything.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest impact that I think that these AI and no code tools are going to have are in service based companies where just by virtue of the dynamics that surround building them, the infrastructure is costly to build out. You kind of have to scale revenue in direct proportion to labor in a lot of cases, particularly with construction and remodeling companies. And so now that burden is going to be nearly erased effectively. And so you're going to start to see a lot more success with these, $3 to $5 million a year companies just being able to increase output and decrease costs significantly, being able to then reinvest in growth and things like that. So I think it's going to do a lot of good for these smaller businesses.
Mm. For the ones that adopt it.
Yeah, I know. I've been telling people there's going to be two types of businesses in the next 16 months. Those that find a way to use AI assisted workflows and automations, and the rest of the others who go out of business.
That's right. Um, So tell me, like, how do you see? So there's obviously the AI assisting automations. That's kind of what we're talking about. But there is like this idea of a boutique consulting firm. I haven't used that word, but I see where you're going with that. Tell me what you see as the future. First of all, define what this boutique consulting firm is in your definition, and what's the future there.
Yeah, so I think there's been the rise of gig work, like the rise of the gig economy has been going for some time now. But as we start to get a little bit further along, guys like you and I are probably going to bring some people up with us that will specialize in a very very specific task, and then they'll be able to build a legitimate business doing that one thing. So when I think about boutique, it's like what I do in my firm, and you are kind of specialized in the painting niche, and I think that there's definitely some power in kind of like monopolizing that smallest cohesive subset of the market. What I'm trying to do is tackle a specific problem, which is increased operating expenses. And how can we decrease operating expenses in order to be able to re-engage in direct marketing? And that's the kind of, it's more of a philosophical approach. So I'm not opposed to like any service-based business that is struggling to increase the lifetime value of their client. and we can decrease their operating expenses while allowing them to reinvest in additional growth is kind of is what the future looks like. And so the boutique nature is just the sense that I can create a really dynamic team. So we have like a deep bench, software developers, automation specialists, these bubble IO developers, no code developers, and marketers, and deploy them in any locality right now. So very small, very effective, and you see the scale potential there, obviously.
What's your because I completely agree that the one I my belief, and I'm like acknowledging, okay, I have a bias here because I'm on the side, but like why I think people like me are um not going to go away in the at least in what we do today is going to be around for another, let's say, at least 5 years. It's not forever, but the even beyond that, which I'm curious to see how it plays out, is that it's one thing to be like, hey, I automated making quotes or something, right? Or I automated our leads coming in and like getting all the data where it needs to go. That's a like it's like me being able to put up a wall for a house. Like, hey, check it out. I framed in a wall. Cool. Can you do two? Yeah, I can do two. I can do four walls, a roof, and just like I'm on the fly just putting this together. But the problem is that what is still not, or what still doesn't exist yet, and I believe that AI will be able to solve this as well. Just depends how long it will take to do it well. Um, and that is the architecture of the system. And that's the thing that we found is that's I would say that's number one for these consulting companies like yours and ours is, can you design and have a plan for how this is all going to come together and how you can add on additional stuff. So it's like you got to build a really solid foundation for the house that you're going to build on top of it. And if you're going to build a skyscraper, there's a different foundation needed than if you're building a house. And if you're, and the analogy continues, but what we help people avoid is they get to a place where they've built 70% of the house and then they're like, why is there no water in the bathroom? It's like, well, because when you started building it, you didn't have a plan for your plumbing, and the plumbing is in the kitchen, and that's it, because you didn't say you wanted a bathroom. It's like things like that. And now it's like, okay, well, we have to rip out all the drywall that we already put in and replumb this. And there's now more costs. But the problem that people face is that they're already living in the house. The automations that they're using to run their business are already operating. And now it's like, oh, crap, we built this wrong. Now what do we do? And there's always a way around it, but it's just painful and it's upsetting to people that are trying to use the tools, and now their data's getting messed up and stuff. So that's the biggest thing I would say is the architecture, or in this world of data and automation, the architect is 100 times more valuable than the person that can do the thing and have this go there and automate this and make a PDF or whatever.
I 100% agree with you, and I actually use this as a case study when I talk to people, because what's happening now, and I don't know if you've like had this specific conversation, but I talk to people about that specific problem, and it's like it's going to cost you X number of dollars to move from where you are. It's sunk cost. Like you have to move from one place to the next in order to be able to fix this problem. And we're starting to see that cost of migration is like you could replace the entire company for the cost it would take to do that. And so that's going to be the challenge is brand new companies, brand new painting companies that deploy their architecture correctly will be able to compete right alongside, if not more so, than the people who have to switch and invest a bunch of capital to do things a different way. If that makes sense, it gets a little, it's like psyops there, but the idea
Oh,
is
so
like,
you're saying that the risk to the established company is that they have a burden of, it's like the debt that they have to pay off to move to the new system, but a brand new company comes in and they can just pull in all their new systems if they have the right architecture, and do it for much less than the person that has to migrate. And now a quick word from our sponsor, which is Boolean Review. Boolean is a review software that my wife and I own, and we sell this software to home service businesses. So I know there are many different people that listen to this podcast, but if you know someone, an electrician, an HVAC business, a painting company, maybe a coffee stand, someone that is providing service to customers and get found online by customers, we would love to talk to them. This is a review software that is the highest converting review software in the home service space in particular. And if you're wondering what that means, if you have 100 clients in your business, the typical business gets between 1 to 2% of those customers. So for every 100, they would get one person or two people to leave them a review on Google. Other review softwares get between 3 and 5%, and the Boolean review software gets 20% of your customers to leave you Google reviews. And these are fantastic Google reviews with lots of words, keywords that are going to help with SEO, pictures, stories, the names of your employees. So if you want to learn more, check out booleanreview.com. And now back to the episode.
Exactly right. And so when you look at the competitive landscape, the SWOT analysis now has to include the fact that you look at the replacement cost as a relationship to what it's going to cost you to switch. And you might very well find out that you can just like literally restart, get rid of everything, your entire customer base even, and just start over for the same cost it would take you to move that system. That's how quickly these AI tools are moving.
Yeah, and I would say the other piece that I would say, or that I've seen, is that, and I don't know if you guys do this, but it's basically when we are working with a company, we understand, and because we're so narrow in painting, it's not only the automation, but it's the change management and the implementation and usage of that I would say is grossly underestimated by newer people in business. Experienced people in business, they are the ones asking the questions like, well, how are you going to get my, all 50 of my employees to use these new systems and stuff like that? And those are the right questions to be asking, because you have to make sure that there is a plan to roll this out. Because I heard another phrase I love is, nobody likes change, but everybody likes an upgrade. And that's when you come into business, if you take the approach of just kind of the automation gunslinger, like AI is enabling anybody, an owner, a marketing person, anyone with no experience can come in and start making an impact and just throwing out automations. What happens though is that your front office person, their job changes when you did the first automation. And then they're like, all right, what do I do now? Because I've been doing it the same thing for 20 years and you just changed it. So now I got to figure out how to do it the new way. And then a month later, you're like, hey, I got a new improvement, and you make a new upgrade. And then they're like, okay, it's still different. My job's easier, but that's okay. And then you new one, a new one, a new one. And like we call it automation burnout. And what happens is your employees are actually, they get to a point of literally like, I don't care. Like, I just want to be able to do my job. And it's really frustrating that every day I come in and I feel like I'm learning a brand new job, and I would rather not work here than have to continue to learn a new process every single week or month. And in some cases, we've actually had employees that like literally are resisting or fighting against this implementation. And at first I was like, what the hell's wrong with this person? But now I have empathy for like, oh, it's because there was like 16 things and then there's errors and we're debugging live. And they're like, I'm just trying to answer the calls, and I'm talking to a customer and the thing that you made won't load. And so it's like that type of stuff. You have to compress that down into a week or a couple of week implementation with like air handling and figuring all that out. And you can do that better with a better architecture plan. If you don't have a plan, then you're just freestyling. And like my demeanor is, I have more grace and flexibility to roll with constant changes. But most people in business are not like that.
Right. Yeah, it takes practice, and that's a really good point. It it is really an emotional, particularly if you're working closely with the guy that founded the company. It isn't just a resistance to change. It's like, man, I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into the operation side of this business for 20 years, and now you're effectively telling me that I've been doing it wrong. And it's like, well, not really. That's just how it feels, and I get it. So you do have to kind of have that. But it's pretty cutthroat where it's like, look, this can't be a 15-week process, because 16 months from now, you're gonna. I mean, if nobody really knows, like you alluded to this, where you 5 years, man. I think it's like 16 months. It's so fast at this point. Like you may not be able to compete with some guy that just got an LLC that hired Chris Kiefer to put this thing together correctly from the jump, and now you don't have a business. So
Yeah.
it's
No, and
it's
to
crazy.
clarify, I'm saying that I think that this boutique consulting business that you and I are in, I think we have a 5-year runway
Oh yeah,
before there's like some, I mean, genuinely, like that's my, like we've talked on our team about like, ooh, like we figured out like some secret, like this happens where we're like, oh, we figured out a cool way to do that. And that's why I started my YouTube channel, because I'm just like,
yeah,
everything that we're doing right now is going to be able to be done by robots in a matter of months, like, or maybe it's already possible. So I want to tell the world all the stuff that I'm learning, because I have the belief that my job is going to get taken. So it's like I'm in like this almost, I guess some people might look at it as insanity, but I feel like it's exciting. Just be like, dude, like I don't know what's coming. I just know that there is absolutely no point in pretending like you have figured something out that nobody else knows, because everybody's going to know it in 6 months. So might as well just like share as we're learning, and just stay on the cutting edge. We don't have to be like the best, but we just need to be on like that wave of all the tech, and just having answers and being good, really good problem solvers, and also really good implementers of AI. Because that's another thing is like I've talked a lot about clean data, and if you don't have clean data, how are you going to like, you can't just like at least at this point there's not something that you just basically like go to chat gpt and say run my business and make it scale. Like you have to plug the tools into, here's my CRM and all the data is structured intelligently and logically, and here's my sales and here's how I do my estimating. But the people that have information across all these different things, it's like, how does the computer know which one takes priority? And are we looking at the last updated time, or which record was created first, or any of that stuff? And you can't just throw AI at it and say fix it. Like I don't even know if you can throw people at it to fix it. And that's why it's so important to make sure that your business has clean, structured data. Otherwise, I feel like all these advantages that are coming down the pike with um, with AI are just, you're not going to be able to take advantage of them.
yeah, 100%. And really, that is in the future value, the future enterprise value of small cap companies is going to be the data, how clean it is, how easy it is to segment. I 100% agree with you there. And it's, as soon as we crest like we're almost there. Yeah, 5 whether it's 5 years, 16 months, I 100% agree with you. I guess what I'm getting at is the second that we can create back end workflows with the ease and fluidity that we can create front end workflows, which is right around the corner. Like, are you familiar with Bubble? So as soon as there's a Bubble slash Zapier where you can create legit user interfaces with automated backend with a prompt, and then you can, then I'll be able to sit down with you in a meeting, figure out what it is that you want to do, what sector you're in, build you an end-to-end enterprise level system in 48 hours. And I can't imagine that's much more than 24 months away. I mean
I
that,
completely agree with that.
and
And
then
that's
it will be the boutique firms like us will just be managing the implementation of how those get rolled out.
yes. Yep. No, I completely, and that's what we've had discussions. This is actually a big one, is should we build a project management app
Yeah,
for painting?
right.
This is like, should we do this? Because right now we're leveraging Airtable, Bubble, all these different tools, like you're mentioning, to figure out a better way for painting companies to manage their business. But the problem with doing all these one-off things is that when we come up with a new idea and we say, hey, like, check this out, we came up with a new reporting dashboard, we have to go implement that into each person's instance because everybody's doing it differently. So I would say one of the realizations that I've had is there is a decision that you have to make as a business owner of, like, I would say anyone is going to be able to make their own app in 24 months. But the interesting piece of that is, do you want your own app? At what cost does having your own app come with? It might be cheap to make it, but the thing where I still feel like there's this opportunity is someone like, there's a really popular estimating tool in the painting world called Paint Scout. It's great. It's the best one that I've seen for painting estimating, and it literally just does paint estimating. It's not perfect. It doesn't. I've even talked to them and they said they realize now they would structure some things differently, but at least they have a team of developers that are working every day to come up with new features and make it better and smarter and look better and be a better user interface and have more integrations, and they're improving constantly. If you make your own app that does estimating, great, you got your own app, you know? But now, like, I guess this is the next thing that AI would do. Is AI going to get to a point where it's just like, hey, I thought of some new ideas. Would you like me to implement those into your app? Like, and I guess that's certainly coming as well. But that's the piece right now that I think there's still an opportunity. Yes, you can make your own, but you also, when you make your own, there's the cost that you're incurring that you're not maybe consciously aware of, is the upkeep of that system.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. But it's like if you are deploying software across, like if you developed it specifically for the painting space, an interesting thing to think about would be, would AI be able, there's algorithmic behavioral characteristics that Facebook tracks, you know,
Can AI just do all that for you?
yeah, how long did somebody get stuck on this page? Like what happened? Where's the resistance? Where's the friction in operations and understanding? And then, by the way, here's an entire right printout so you can retrain them on those steps. Those things I think are just right around the corner. I think the big tipping point, Chris, is really going to be these dev teams that are really experienced now with companies like, you even made a good analogy that I loved. I'm not going to butcher it by paraphrasing it here, but it was about Slack and like, why would you want to compete with Slack on communications? And I love that. The challenge though is as these AI tools, AI assisted development tools and no code tools develop to the point where one single individual can compete with them, you have this situation where enterprise development teams, they're not going to cannibalize themselves, right? They're going to hang on as long as they possibly can to their job because of the same resistance to change that the painting companies have that you work with. And so that tipping point is going to be finally when it's like, okay, we're now losing market share to Todd, who's a one man band and just created this thing in 48 hours. It's going to be interesting to see how that shifts, but um, yeah, a lot of unknowns.
Yeah. No, I think that it's, I mean, yeah, I just feel like the more that I have conversations like this and more conversations with people that understand AI, I just am like, you can tell. I feel like we are right now living through the .com bubble that we heard about. Like, I was 10 years old then when that was happening, and I like had used a computer. I didn't understand what was going on at the business level. Both my parents were teachers. Like, I had no idea. But hearing like the stories of the companies that came out of that, I feel like right now is the same thing is happening, but at a more massive scale, with AI. And it's like, I'm not saying that we're going to try and be the next Amazon, you know. I just know that if I can stay close to the edge, we'll be okay. You know, the people that are just like plugging their ears and like, oh, I've never tried Chat GPT or Gemini or any, like, I just am, it's whatever. I just don't know why you would do that. Like, it seems like I understand the anxiety or like, oh, it's another tech thing I have to learn. But yeah, I just keep telling people, like, don't run away from it. It's like the most powerful calculator that can do not only math but any other problem, and you have to at least try to engage. And if you try, you'll be better than 50% of the population that's ignoring it.
Yeah, it's true. And but I do, to play devil's advocate for a second, when I do have really, really high level conversations about societal implications of AI. And I use a quick example is like, imagine you pull into your local Dutch Bros drive through, and instead of there being an individual in the parking lot with an iPad ready to take your order, they have a camera that scans, an RFID chip or your license plate, and it says, "Hey, Chris, here's your last three orders. Would you like to order one of these, or would you like to modify your order?" And then you select go. It transacts the payment. You pull up to the window. Your coffee's there. So they are able to process, some multiple of two or three times more orders, and that will just become the expected outcome. So you have the conversation with people where they say, morally, well, what about the conversation? And it's like, yeah, I understand that. People didn't want to grab their lunch from McDonald's and eat it in their car either. They had to get re-educated, and then suddenly that became what the expectation for the environment was. So whether you have a moral uh, opposition to what's happening, it's like you either adopt, or what are you going to do? Segment yourself from society? I just think that that's probably not the right way to look at it.
Yeah. No, I feel like, because I've had many conversations and people are like, "Oh, what's going to happen to jobs and stuff?" And the truth is, I don't know. And if anyone that says that they
Yeah.
know what's going to happen, they don't know.
Yeah.
But I will
Yeah.
also tell you that I feel like this is the same um it's the same scenario that I feel like has happened many other times in history. And everyone's like, oh yeah, but it's not the same because this is like a trajectory like nothing else before. But I've been talking to my grandpa who's 96 years old. So he was born, let's call it 100 years ago. He's turning 97 this weekend. 97 years old. And like, when I tell him what I do today, because he's like, what is that? Like, he's never used a computer in his entire life. He's barely had the internet, and I just got him like an Alexa so he could like ask it what the weather is. And that's like mind-boggling to him. It makes absolutely no sense in any way what my job is to him. He's like, I was a logger. I cut down trees for 50 years. I retired. Like, that's what I did, you know? And he's like, and you're on this little metal box and people are paying you to do stuff. Like, it's just like, it's completely absurd. And
Is he
so the
is he
only thing I
telling you to
can,
like get a job? He's like,
no, no,
yeah.
he's like, obviously you're doing well, Chris, but he's like, I don't get it, you know? And
Right.
so to me, it's like, if you were to have told someone 20 or 70 years ago what the world would look like, and all the job, first of all, who could have told you that there would be a job for someone to figure out how to get robots to do more work for businesses, right? It's like, that doesn't even, like, what is a robot? Like, what does that mean? Whatever. It's like, so why would that not continue to happen, where in the future there's new, like, yes, is it going to eliminate a barista at Dutch Bros? Probably. Is it going to eliminate like the teachers in classrooms? Like, probably some of them. But it's like, I don't know what jobs are going to exist in 50 or 20 years that don't exist today. And so I feel like the only option is to, like you said, it's happening. Like, we are innately driven towards do more with less, be lazy, comfort, all that stuff. So that's where like society as a whole is going to go. But then the choice that everyone has to make is, are you going to be on like the optimistic side of like, we're going to figure out how to make the world a better place, not despite of, but with, in conjunction with this crazy changing technological world that we're in. And so I've had conversations with people about like what, like, the businesses that I think like the new opportunity is something around community and like friendships, realistically. And there's even the idea of like, oh, there's going to be AI companions or whatever, and maybe some people will try that for a while. But just this idea of like the businesses or the opportunities are going to be like, as silly as it sounds, something like pickleball clubs, right? It's going to be the physical, like, we have this amazing tech that does so much for us, but we still want to have barbecues with friends. We still want to go, hiking. We want to build relationship with people. And so a business that can focus on building better relationships with groups of people so you have friends, that's the thing that, like, if you like extrapolate this out to the forever and like the extreme of what AI can do for us, I feel like that's somehow in the realm of what's going to be needed, 50 years, 100 years from now.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a fundamental reshaping, here's the part that does scare me is that the educational system is so far behind. It's like
Mm.
K through 12 education is forgetting that the world just changed. So, like this, the I mean, it's difficult to even put it into words like how big of a problem this is, man. Where it's like, what are these kids gonna do? What's the use for college at this point? And I've never, and I never would advocate that college is not useful. But my only point is that there would be specialty boot camps to learn how to work in these boutique consulting firms, and most of it's going to be remote, and you could work in the Philippines and make a couple $100,000 a year, and people are going to be traveling more. I think it will do more to benefit society than not, but I think that there's going to be some significant learning curves, and a lot of difficulty due to the fact that people aren't going to adopt it. Our education system continues to just move on as if nothing's changing, and so there is bound to be a destructive, curve there, because we're not teaching people that the world's not the same.
Mm. Completely agree. There's quick note before I move to my wrap up questions. There's a I'm gonna have to look up the Instagram handle of this person, but there's a AI teaching tool that has come out for right now. It does math and reading, I think, and they're working on the science component of it. But it's basically, I mean, this is one of those things that I feel like is absolutely brilliant, and I don't know why this, like, how do we get this implemented into more classrooms, or like, I already started doing it with my daughter with just like simple math. But the thing that's amazing, if you think about with AI, can, like, if they can combine it with teaching, is that some kids just get a concept faster, right? And they're like, okay, and then they're bored. Other kids are like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And so this AI math tutor that you can get, you basically say like, it starts a lesson and you say what age or math level they're at, and then they start going. And at any point you can be like, I don't understand, and then it just goes deeper into like a different analogy of like, okay, pretend that you had this and this, and then it explains it in that way, and you're like, I still don't get it. And it's like, okay, well, let's go back to it. And it just like, you could take 15 minutes on that thing, or you can demonstrate that you understand, and it's like, all right, next topic, boom, and you're moving. So like now all these kids are able to get like personalized tutoring and help them actually learn, as opposed to like in a class where you're either leaving kids behind or there's half the class that could be going faster that's not. And anyways, like that, like to the extreme, is actually really exciting to me. But I do agree that that's not happening in the standard public school right now, but some combination of that I think is going to be huge.
Yeah, yeah.
So uh I'm keeping an eye on time. I want to get your book recommendation and movie suggestion. So, what are your 3 book recommendations for us?
So I got to go with Management by Drucker. That's probably it's been my Bible. I've read it 6 or 7 times. I've purchased that book just to give it away to friends, people I care about that I'm kind of mentoring or whatever the case is. So I swear by that book. It's a fantastic book. Obviously, Peter Drucker is kind of the godfather of modern management as we all know it. I would say The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge. That book is fantastic. It talks about kind of the mold between learning organizations, the philosophy mixed with the science. And so I think that's just a good look, particularly for people, like you and I that have a tendency to probably look at things from both a scientific and mathematical perspective, but also from a philosophical perspective. And then, yeah, those would be my two main books in the management space. But was I supposed to look for 3? Was I supposed to look for 3?
If you got 3, but I don't, you don't have to force one. I like the 2 that you gave are, I know Peter Drucker well. I don't know the other book that you mentioned, but yeah, no, I love that. Let's just go to movie.
The fifth discipline. I'll leave you with uh, a book. I think Jim Collins, right? The Toyota Way. It's about Toyota's management philosophy, kind of how Six Sigma was coined. And it's a fantastic book. So, a movie recommendation. I'm a sucker, so I got to go with The Founder. Ray Kroc. That story. I like founder origin stories, and yeah, what a good one.
Yeah, that's that one to me is like it's like I'd heard, but crazy to think that it just goes. I mean, I feel like it's kind of in line with what you've been talking about in this podcast as well, which is uh, having the idea is like, okay, cool. Like there were so many burger shops, it was the guy that came through and was like, let's systemize this. Let's make this standard and like so people know what they're going to get every time. And you can train a high school kid how to do this in, 30 minutes. And it just like, I've heard that McDonald's as like the reason that they're this international brand is because of McDonald's University, and they figured out how to create more McDonald's as opposed to figuring out how to like run a McDonald's. It's like they focused on building the system that was going to make all these businesses, and I think that's a good lesson for everybody.
Yeah, man. In summary, in short form, the McDonald's brothers created a fantastic system, right? And Ray Kroc saw the value there. He tried to create a franchise model. They struggled with quality control, and the breakthrough point for that company was that the it was McDonald's Corporation. They realized they were a real estate holding company. If they bought the land, held the land, controlled the lease rights, and then they could pull the franchise license if somebody wasn't upholding quality. And so, to this day, I think McDonald's is the largest real estate holding company on the planet.
It's crazy. What's your preferred method of contact if someone wants to reach out?
Email works, so you can reach me at Shawn at gonextconsulting.com. Always checking the email all the time, of course. Facebook, you could just look me up there, or Next Consulting also has a page. Yeah,
Awesome. And where are you based out of again?
Phoenix.
Phoenix, but you're a Spokane
Yeah,
native.
native of Spokane. So down here in Phoenix, just trying to be close to the the mecca of market growth and activity at the moment.
Mm. Yeah, the so interesting. The places like Phoenix would not be booming if it wasn't for air conditioning. Air conditioning
Yeah,
changed the game.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Shawn. I appreciate you taking the time to come on. This was fun. We'll have to do it again.
yeah. Always a pleasure, and thanks for having me as well. You guys take care, and until next time.
Thank you so much for listening. My name is Chris Kiefer, and my mission is to champion the relentless pursuit of purpose. And what that means to me is to be an example, a champion, someone that is in the trenches, working and showing and winning and trying and failing in how to pursue a deeper and more meaningful life with the people that I love, with my kids, with my friends, with our family, and also just be a champion and example of entrepreneurship and following my passion and doing what I believe I'm called to on this earth. And so if that inspires you in some way, please share this episode. If you want, like, subscribe, share, whatever, do all the stuff. It means the world to me to get this message and get these guests that I have out there. And if you're interested in any of the book recommendations or looking up other episodes, the movie list, you can visit my website, chriskiefer.com, for all the details on the show. And also check out the Boolean review software, as well as the Boolean automation consulting company that I own for home service businesses. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.